everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I am bringing you my series First Impressions for the two most recent Book One Cozies Club picks, which was Gravesite, which is the first book in the Harper Connelly series by Charlaine Harris, and The Remains of the Dead, which is the first book in the Ghost Dusters Mysteries by Wendy Roberts. So I wanted to talk about these two books together because they are kind of similar in the fact that both of our amateur sleuths can see dead people. So let me start off with Gravesite by Charlaine Harris. This one follows Harper and her brother Tolliver. It's actually her stepbrother, and they are invited to a town to find a missing girl. Now, Harper doesn't find missing people. Harper can only find dead people. Her ability allows her to see where bodies are buried. So when she gets to town after being invited there, this is her job. She does make money off of doing this, and it's how her and her stepbrother make a living. The people that hired her kind of have second thoughts. They're not confident in the fact that Harper can find anyone, let alone see dead people. So she walks in on them kind of having an argument, and she pretty much perceives this as they're going back on their invitation. They don't think that they want her services any longer. So they decide to pack up and leave. Well, on her way back to their hotel room, she is able to detect a person's body. It's someone nobody even thinks is missing, let alone deceased. And so she just kind of gives it to the officer as a freebie, saying, hey, just so you know, this person is here. So basically the nature of Harper's ability is that she can see where dead bodies are buried, so grave sites of these bodies. And she doesn't really communicate with them, but she can see their spirit hovering around. And if she gets close enough and the body is fresh enough, she's able to kind of see their moments right before their death. So anyway, she gives this hint to the officer as a freebie, and they verify her information. And then they decide, okay, we're going to have her do what we asked her to do. So the woman that hired her son has passed. He is believed to have committed suicide, though the way his body was found is kind of suspicious. But anyway, he was with a girl when he disappeared, and they believe that she either also committed suicide, or it was a murder-suicide, or they don't know what's happened, but they want Harper to find this girl. And Harper tells them, you know, I don't find lost people, I only find dead people. But they enlist her services anyway, and Harper does end up finding this girl. But as they're in town, the dead bodies kind of start piling up, and Harper is bullied, and her life is put into danger, and that's kind of where this story goes. I really enjoyed this book. I find that the writing style was very easy for me to get into. I have read Charlaine Harris's Aurora Teagarden series, a few of those books, I think 3 of them. That series is quite a bit longer than this one. But being that we're getting into the spookier season of the year, I really wanted to kind of get into more paranormal / spookier type reads, and I think the jar heard me, because when this one came out of the jar, I was like, oh, this is perfect. Even though it was September, it would be gearing me up for the season. And I really enjoyed this book. There was a little bit of uncomfortableness for me regarding Harper and her stepbrother's relationship. I don't know, the way they interact with each other is, I think, more than siblings, or at least that's the feeling that I'm getting. I haven't talked to anybody else who has read this one, so I don't know if maybe that was just me getting a weird feeling about them. But other than that, they work really well together, and their parents married when they were still younger, so I'm interested to know how the two of them got so close, because they both have other siblings. There is a part in this book that talks about Harper's sister, who has been missing for quite some time. They don't really touch on that here, but they do mention it, and I do believe it's going to be a storyline that is explored in volumes that come later in the series. They also had a section here where it talks about another one of their siblings going missing. Like that day, they get a call from a relative, and that part, I don't feel like that whole section was necessary to the story, because I felt like it dragged the story of this book down. I'm not sure if they're setting it up for another installment, for things to happen, but I kind of felt like that was like a speed bump in this book. Nonetheless, it was a pretty short section of this book, and the main storyline of this book was very interesting to me, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where Harper and Tolliver go next and what they investigate next. This series is only, I believe, 4 books long, and I have all of them, so there really is no reason for me to have slept on this series for so long, and there's also no reason for me not to continue this series, especially since I enjoyed this one so much. So this was September's Book 1 Cozy's Club selection. Then it just so happened that for October, this one came out of the jar, and this is The Remains of the Dead by Wendy Roberts, which is the first book in the Ghost Dusters mystery series. And again, I thought, this is awesome. This is just the type of book that I want to read in October. And so many times I wait until October to read books like this, when I really, really shouldn't, because then I end up not getting to it or forgetting about it, because there's so many other books that I want to read that are more on the paranormal, supernatural spectrum. But anyway, I've also had this one for a very long time, and again, it was another one that I really enjoyed. This one follows Sadie, and she runs a crime scene cleanup company. How she got into this profession is connected to her older brother's suicide, so there's a trigger warning there in case you're sensitive to that. But it's been a little while now since then. She has this really successful crime scene cleanup company, and it's one of 2 crime scene cleanup companies in her area, and she's really the only one that deals with cleanups that don't have to do with meth labs. So any time that there's a dead body or an unattended death, her company gets called in to clean up the scene. Sadie also has the ability to see spirits of the departed, and she is actually able to communicate with them. So when she gets called into the scene of a murder-suicide and is able to see the spirit of only one of the departed people, she is not surprised. She tries to communicate with the spirit, but the spirit doesn't really react to her. And the other spirit is nowhere to be seen. because Sadie is unable to see spirits of people who have committed suicide. Also, when she arrives at the crime scene for the very first time, she runs into someone who really shouldn't be there. She gets curious as to why he's there and starts to kind of look into his reasons for possibly being there. And that kind of really kicks in her investigation into what went on here, as well as her finally being able to connect with the spirit that was still at the crime scene. So I thought that the take on this story was very interesting. It does definitely make you think you already know how this ended up, but it didn't end that way at all, which was a nice surprise. Funnily enough, I had watched a documentary on a crime scene cleanup company in September, and while it was eye-opening and informative, the person that they were following was very crass, and I don't know if maybe he just needed to be that way because of the nature of things that he was dealing with. But Sadie's very different from that, because she has dealt with the situations that these families have dealt with. She is more compassionate in the way she handles not only interacting with them, but the situations. You get several different clients that she interacts with in this book, which also made the story interesting, because you're not only following her through this one investigation. While she's only investigating this one mystery about the murder-suicide, there are little mysteries that pop up as to how this person died and how this person died, and they're all pretty much straightforward deaths though for those, and so you get a variety of different situations where people have passed and how she deals with those families. This story, because of Sadie's profession, does include more gory details, especially in regards to states of bodies when there has been an unattended death, the types of things that she's cleaning up, things that she needs to do in these situations to make sure that everything is properly cleaned and sanitized, and things like that. I'm not fazed by things like that. I find them to be more interesting and informative, but I understand how some people are not into details like that, and that can be over the top for them, and things that they just rather not know about. So I'm just putting that out there right now, that details like that are included in this story, and I presume as well as the rest of the books in this series. So if those types of things are not of interest to you, I definitely steer clear of this series. But I really enjoyed this. It ended, like I said, surprisingly. I thought it was going in one direction for a pretty good chunk of the book, and it ended up not being who I thought it was. The ending of this book is rather sad. It's another thing that I wasn't expecting coming, but it was interesting nonetheless, and I will definitely be continuing with this series as well. I do have the next book already in my library, so I have no reason not to pick it up. This series has only 5 books, so again, it's another short series, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what other cases Sadie investigates. She also picked up one more employee in this book, so having that extra person around who doesn't know about Sadie's abilities and seeing how that dynamic works will be something that I look forward to. And there was a little snippet from the next installment that definitely sounds intriguing. So yeah, another book that I really enjoyed. If you enjoy some paranormal with your cozies, I definitely recommend these 2 series. Again, this is the Harper Connelly series by Charlaine Harris, and the Ghostbusters mystery series by Wendy Roberts. I thoroughly enjoyed both of these and would love to hear if you have read either of these series as well. I did already pick November's Book One Cozy's Club pick, so that is Buried in a Book, the first book in the Novel Idea series by Lucy Arlington. I do believe I have this one on my shelves, but I'll pop up a picture here so you can see what the cover looks like. So this will be our November selection. Like I said, Book One Cozy's Club picks are always discussed in the Mystery Madness Goodreads group on Goodreads. A link to that group is down in the description box below, and I hope you will join us for that one in November. If you have read either the Harper Connelly series or the Ghostbusters mystery series, again, let me know what you thought of them, or if you have read other books by these authors. I'd really be interested to know as well. Obviously, both of these authors have other series. This is the first time I was reading a book by Wendy Roberts, and so I'm interested to see what other stories she brings to the table. Like I said earlier, I have read some of the Aurora Teagarden mystery series, and I do enjoy those as well. But yeah, that is all I've got for you today. I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye!